What is up, everyone? Welcome to the next part of the living room home entertainment setup series. Now, I've got no idea what part this is. Could be part 5, part 6. We've done a lot in this series and it's kind of been going back and forth, little changes here and there. But I really feel that this part is going to be the biggest change. It's going to be the most exciting part, and I think we're finally going to reach a point where I can pretty much say, yes, my setup is finished. Pretty much, you know, obviously things are changing all the time, but I think we'll get close in this part. Maybe other than one of the quite large elements, but we'll talk about that in a minute. First of all, though, you guys can probably tell that a lot has already changed in the room just by the background. So let's take a little look at what's going on. So I'm going to focus on this side of the room first of all. Just this side, because there's a big change over the other side and you guys are going to notice it straight away, so I'm going to need to talk about that. We have indeed redecorated, or to be more accurate, we are in the middle of redecorating, so that's why things are still quite shambolic, all messy, and paint tins and whatnot. We're kind of 3/4 of the way through redecorating, and I say we. Jess has been doing the whole thing, bit by bit, while I've been in work. She's been painting all of the walls and all of the woodwork as well. You guys can see that we now have a white fireplace, white shelves, the door's been done, that door, the radiator, all the skirting, that door which is looking 100 times better. It's just all magnificent. It's fresh, it's looking wonderful, and it's really nice to be able to finally have a nice living room after all these years. It was a horrible manky magnolia kind of puke beige colour, and various shades of brown on the different bits of wooden stuff all over the room here. Jess is laughing at me in the background. It really was horrible, but now it's so much nicer. Also, a huge difference, the gas fire is now gone. So last time the gas man was here, he took away the gas fire, which is great. We never used it, and it was a heap of junk anyway. You know, it's quite an old school thing to have these days. Beneficial, I guess, to those people who use them, but for us it was just a complete waste of space, and also quite dangerous because it's just this huge lump of metal and glass that sticks all the way out, sitting here on the fireplace. Completely no need of it at all, so that's gone. There's just a gaping hole behind there at the moment, but we'll find something to do with that. So that's looking great with the white mantelpiece and everything. As you can see, my shelves over here and Jess's shelves here, just looking really nice. And also, as a little final change, I've changed the light switches. Bit of touching up to do. That's one thing. We've got to go around and do some filling and some touching up, so just some finishing touches over this side of the room. But I've changed the light switches. The door handle here needs changing because, as you guys can probably tell, we're kind of ditching the brown and gold look gradually and going for the more kind of white, clean look. So this gold handle sticks out like a sore thumb, and it's broken anyway, so it needs changing. But I took off these light switches, and these are just awful. The thing is with these switches, if you're into gold, then they look nice when you first put them on. I'm not a lover of gold at all, so I don't like them anyway, and I don't like this kind of frilly design around the edge. But if you don't keep up with cleaning them, they just go horrible eventually, and they look all worn and just not nice. So we've taken those off, and they're huge anyway. I don't understand why these particular switches are so big. You can see around the edge of the switch that I've replaced it with just how huge they are. You know, these white switches, these kind of more sleek ones, are just much more streamlined. And I did decide to opt for a separate normal light switch and keep the Philips Hue switch off to one side. You can mount them directly on top, and I know a lot of people these days just plaster over the light switch completely and just use a Philips Hue switch, but I still like having the physical control of the lighting circuits here as well as Philips Hue. We don't ever turn it off anyway, so it makes no difference. On that note as well, we've still got gold sockets around the whole room. I'm going to change every single one because obviously they don't match now, and a lot of them are broken anyway. The switches themselves are just, when you try and turn the socket off, it just springs back and you can't turn it off. So we'll change a lot of those. There's also a socket like that upstairs that's the same. It seems to be a common fault with these particular ones, so a lot of them around the house don't switch off. Going to gradually change those and also ditch that aerial socket there. I'll just put a white blank plate over the front of that. But that's how the room is looking. Now let's have a look over the other side, and straight away you guys will see the TV situation. Now actually, before I point out the TV, because that's talking tech, I'm going to touch on this. Now the gas box, please ignore the lamp. The lamp is on its last legs. One of the things that we'll be buying, treating ourselves to, is a new lamp. The gas box, let's talk about it for just a minute or so, because I know I talk about it in every single living room home entertainment setup video. But as you guys can see, the gas box is looking 100 times better. Now a huge shout out to a viewer of mine, Chris. He took the time to email me this lovely long email filled with information and filled with links about how, what, why, when I can change my gas box. So he found all of the information for me, because all I've been able to do in the past is moan about it, but I've never gone out of my way to find out how to get it changed. And Chris, thank you so much for providing that info, but it turns out that it is going to cost me way more money to get this gas meter moved outside than is worth it. So plan B, we're sticking with the gas meter in the corner of the room, which is the easiest option. And my dad has worked his magic, and he's put a nice door on the front here, covering the horrible jagged kind of hole. And he's put some nice trim around the top, so it actually now looks like something that should be there. Looks much better, fits in with the room. And what we're going to hopefully do today is sort out a little bit of this. We'll talk about that in a minute. But first of all, the TV. So after videos and videos of you guys nagging me to buy a more modern TV, as you guys know, in the last part, I went out and I bought a more modern TV, a much more modern one. It was 1080p, LED backlit. It wasn't like a mega cheapo one. It was made by LG, albeit a kind of a lower end one. It was still a relatively nice TV, 42 inch, just a few years old, and it was great. But unfortunately, it has recently died. It completely blew up, and quite spectacularly just stopped working. So we have now sort of downgraded once again, kind of side graded, if you like, to a different TV. Well, first of all, that LG, when it died, we were using Jess's TV for a bit as backup, the one that I've had in my office for years, the 32 inch one that I use for some testing up there. And then a friend of mine in work gave me this one. This is a Panasonic Viera TV. It's a 37 inch TV, and it's from pretty much the same era as the Samsung. It might be a year or two newer. It's back down to CFL backlighting and also 720p. So we've come full circle, ditched the Samsung, got the LG. It was good for a bit, but now we're all the way back again, and we've lost 3 inches. The Samsung was a 40 and this is a 37. So it's been a complete disaster. But hey, this TV was free, and just like the Samsung, I've got a feeling that we'll be rocking with this TV for a very long time. Now, it's not all bad. The picture is really good. The colors are nice, and the backlight is more even than the LG, because as I remember pointing out to you guys previously, you could see the patches of LEDs behind the picture on the LG, and I never liked that. But unfortunately, this one has got some really annoying feature with the backlight level. It tries to kind of demonstrate a better contrast ratio than it actually has. So when a scene goes really dark or it fades to black, the backlight also fades down so that you get a really deep black image on screen. But when the next scene comes up and it's bright, you see the fade up of the backlight. So the backlight is constantly fading up and down. Really annoying, also really annoying for gaming. Haven't figured out how to turn it off yet. But that's pretty much the only downside to the TV. That and the fact that it is a little on the smaller side at 37 inches. Would really like a 40, 42, that kind of neck of the woods. But hey, this was free, and as I say, it was given to me by my friend, so I really do appreciate that. Just like the Samsung, Really, you know, just awesome stuff. People are so generous. So yeah, TV situation has altered, but we will be making up for it in this video because we will be finally installing the projector. Now we've got to finish off the painting here. This is the only wall left with the old colour. This wall is all done, need to do some filling up there, finishing touches around the room, but projector is going up in this video. We'll talk about that in a day or two, but first of all today we are going to tackle this little thing down here because it's sticking out like a sore thumb and it's really annoying. So I, in fact, ripped this off a couple of days ago just to see how easy it would be to take off. I believe it was in the previous video we did this. We put this trunking on and ran the cabling for the Cat 6 that goes to the projector, or will go to the projector, and the 2 speaker wires. We ran through the gas box and along there to the new sockets that we added on the wall. That was fine for a bit, but now that we're kind of tidying up the room and making things look nicer, it is horrible to look at. So today I'm going to whip this off. I'm going to run the cabling under here straight into the box and it'll be a lot cleaner. We're going to try and rip all of this off. Let's just do a bit on camera now and see how it comes off. Yeah, that's leaving its sticky stuff on the wall, but we'll be able to get that off, no problem. Hopefully anyway. That's kind of ripped the paint off there, but that's fine. This socket is a complete disaster, as you guys can see. Whoever put that on, that was just absolutely miserable. What I would like to do is probably put a surface box here and bring the socket out here so that you can actually plug stuff in. As you can see, that's quite dangerous because you've really got to put strain on the cable at the bottom of the plug. And also it does leave a gap where the plug is plugged into the socket. So that is a massive disaster, but we won't be tackling that today. We'll do that in the future. We're just going to do these cables. Now, of course, because they're running through the gas box, we've got to actually cut all of them and we've got to rejoin them. So we're going to make joins in both the Cat 6 and the speaker cables in this kind of skirting box here. Hopefully there's enough room in there. I think there's just a couple of radiator pipes. But let's give it a go. Let's whip this skirting off. I was nervous to do it before, as you guys know, because this stuff is a pain in the ass, but we're just going to go for it. It's going to look way nicer, and I should have done it to begin with. But this trunking has been fine. It's lasted, and it's helped not have the cabling drape across the floor like it was for the longest time. So this will be a good upgrade. Okay, so apologies for the flickering of the LEDs. It's my head torch. She's not going to come out from here, which is fine because we can leave it like that. I'll open up the door. Should be able to get my hand in and push cable over here. Then we'll kind of make some joins here-ish, I guess. Plenty of room underneath the radiator pipes for some RJ45s and an RJ45 coupler, so that is not a problem at all. And as you guys can see, this is the old aerial feed that we can obviously ditch, and we've got an old telephone feed here as well, which we can also ditch. So replacing these cables with my cables, pretty sweet. So the old cabling is out, and I've assessed the situation, and actually what we can do now is plug that back in for a minute so I can turn this off. There you go. It's a bit more of a pleasant view for you guys now. Yeah, here's the cabling, and we will cut it here because this is the easiest place to do it. It'll be the least amount we've got to pull through the gas box. But what I've also got to do is pull all of these lines back so that I can loop them correctly underneath the radiator pipe. Because if I don't, we're going to end up with this going over the top, and the skirting obviously won't go back and it'll be really messy anyway. So we'll bring it underneath that radiator pipe and it'll go along the floor here, which will be perfect. All of this trunking is now empty, so we can of course just rip it off. And as you can see, that's coming off in kind of varied degrees of success there. Lovely. Okay. So, hit a bit of a snag. Here is, I've chopped the network cable, and here's one side of it, looped it under the radiator pipes, no problem at all. This side of it, here's the other side of the cut. I've pulled it back out from there, obviously, where I drilled it through initially. Now the problem we've got is this box here that we're dealing with goes halfway along this gas box. So I've got to try and get this cable in through the back behind the meter and poking out here. Now I may be able to wangle my wrist in there and do it with the stiffer Ethernet cable, but it's going to be a nightmare with the speaker cables. Now this would be a million times easier if I could just whip the lid off this and just do it from the top, which is how I cabled it all up in the first place. But this is all now really nicely sealed, as you guys can see. It's all caulked along the top here. There's a big patch there, sealing it on the top from that trunking going up, and all the way along the back here, and it's all painted as well. So I'm just going to ruin that finish if I rip the top of this box off, which will obviously be quite disheartening, because it'll need to be done again. So I think what I'm going to try and do is push the network cable through there, and do it with the speaker cabling taped to the end of it. And if that fails, I may be able to try and poke something through from this side and maybe guide through the cabling like that. But we'll give this a whirl first. It is not going to be easy because that is the gap I'm working with. That's the size of the gap, and I've got to go back and around. So here's my little concoction. This is one end. This is ready to be spliced back together, and this is the tape on one of the speaker wires. Now we've got a run of network cable here, and then tape, and the two speaker wires taped to it. So if I can poke this through, get it poking out somewhere around here, I can drag it through. So it'll just be a little bit of fiddling to get it through. Once it's through, I can pull it, and we're on the home stretch then. Just splice these back together, skirting back, job done. But getting this through is going to be the main thing. And if I can avoid taking that lid off, I'll be very, very happy. Had to resort to the kebab skewer taped to the end of the cable to get it through. But as you guys can see, and it's quite coincidental as well that the only tape that I had is this earth tape, because you can see it's just tucking out under there, and I've finally got it through. So I've got the trusty tongs straight out the dishwasher, and we're going to retrieve that bad boy. Oh my word, that's going to be easier said than done. Oh man, okay, this is definitely not something I'll be able to film myself doing. We are through. Got there in the end. A little bit bendy, but it served a purpose, and so did that, because that was never in a million years going to happen. So, let's talk about termination of these guys. So for the RJ45, pretty simple. Sorry, for the Cat 6, pretty simple. We'll do our usual bog standard twin RJ45 coupler, and we'll just put two connectors on it. Obviously a bit bulky, but very straightforward. For the speaker wire, I was going to do a nice splice and some heat shrink, solder a nice splice in, a little bit of heat shrink over the top so make it lovely and streamlined. But the only heat shrink I seem to have upstairs is absolutely colossal in size, so I don't have anything else here. So what I'll probably just do is use these little connectors and put them in line, because that's all I can really think of to do it quickly. Obviously I could just twist and tape, but that could over time cause issues. So if I get them on some connectors, at least there'll be some force holding that connection in. So I think I'll start with the speaker wiring, and then we'll do the network cable. Of course we can test both sides of the network cable then, although the other side is not terminated actually. But we may pop an end on that just so we can test it as well, because if you guys remember back to the previous part, I can't remember how much I included in the final edit, but when I was creating that little back box over on the back wall over there for the surround speaker, and I was running the network cable through it. If you guys remember, when I was screwing the box onto the wall, I nicked the sleeving of the network cable, and I'm not sure how much damage I caused. So I'm really hoping that's still a good connection, because redoing that join over there, sorry, there is no join, creating a join over there to chop out a little bit of damaged cable is going to be very difficult. But let's just worry about this first and then cross that bridge when we get to that side, I guess. Okay, so not the prettiest thing in the world, but nobody's going to see it, and it's working absolutely fine. Have tested it, got the radio on in the background, so not going to linger too long just in case. Just going to do the RJ45s on both these ends, and then we are done. So I remembered last minute that the socket behind the TV is wired for the A standard. That's what we discovered last time when we were fiddling about for ages with the network connection itself. So I just remembered to wire this in the A standard, and let's take a little look. Let's put it on the fast mode. There we go, continuity on all 4 pairs. Let's just double check the other end, see how we're looking. Yes, perfect. Now of course it wouldn't really matter if we didn't wire this splice in the A standard. As long as we wired both of these as B, it would be a 1-for-1 link of all the cabling anyway. It doesn't matter what order they're in, but it would mean that we wouldn't be able to put this tester in line like we're doing right now. We'd have to test from the other end. So obviously what's good is if you do make a join, because we're putting in this RJ45 coupler, if we keep the wiring the same all the way along, then any trouble in the future, we can jump in and test it. At this point here, we can test both sides, which is very valuable, because this cable right now that I've cut it means that if, for instance, I need to replace this side or need to do something with this side because of what I said earlier about that screw damage to the sleeving behind over there, it means that we can jump in here and test both ways, and it means that this run is now fine. So this line is now finalized. All I've got to do is put an RJ45 on here, and then we'll call it quits for today. I'm not going to bother putting an end on the other end to test it. We'll do that. Yeah, we'll do that soon. Not today. Or should I? I'm thinking maybe I should, because this could be a point of failure. I have had one of these die before. Okay. Yeah, I should put an end on that over there, really. That's going to be temporary anyway, because it's going to be socketed for the projector, but it'll at least test the line for us. Well, it makes me happy to see continuity on this line as well. So obviously that's not the be all and end all with a snag to the sleeving of the cable, because we're running HDMI over Cat6. We need a reliable connection, obviously. Well, we'd need a reliable connection for anything really, but at least we've got continuity on every single wire in this cable. So what we'll do now is we'll couple these together with the keystone jack, and I'll put one end of the tester there, one end of the tester on the other end where the projector is going to go, and then we'll know that we've got one good solid line from one end to the other. Continuity there, perfect, and that is what it looks like. So that's the speaker wire join, and that's the network cable. So all of that will just sit under there. I'll pop that back neatly now, screw the skirting back on, get the dustpan and brush first, I think, and get rid of some of these bits and pieces. But that is great success. Now, obviously, it would have been better to do this in the first place, and I wouldn't have needed joins. But these joins won't matter. They're sitting under here, and they shouldn't cause any problems. And if they do, I know that a point of failure could be these joins. I can whip the skirting off and take a look at them, and for whatever reason, if something's gone wrong with them, I can then sort them. So I feel pretty okay about doing it like this. It's much easier than running all new cable. So there we have it, guys. Some kind of normality back, which is really nice. All the cabling is tucked away under there nicely. This big gap was here before, so don't worry about that. I mean, you know, we're redecorating the room, but all of this is still really, really shabby. But it's fine, because it looks a lot nicer now, and baby steps. Dude, it's right on cue. Baby steps. Don't play with that, little man. That's probably the most dangerous one in the house to play with because the plug doesn't go all the way in. So, success for the first night. I think what we'll do tomorrow night is have a look and see what's going on with this socket. See if we can somehow put a surface box on the Patras and bring her out here. We'll see. It's a couple of days later, and today we are going to do something pretty cool and exciting in comparison to what we did last time. So today we're actually going to try out the projector and make sure that the plan is going to work. So we've got the wiring back here with that temporary RJ45 that I put on a couple of days ago. And we know that there's continuity in the line itself. But what I don't know is if my setup is going to play ball with this kind of system. So I've purchased a couple of HDMI over Cat6 adapters. And they're quite nice ones, actually. They're solid metal. They feel really sturdy. And what's cool about these, in comparison to the others that I've seen in the past, we've got a couple of sets in work. This one takes power. This is the transmitter. But the receiver doesn't require an external power supply. So the one at the projector end simply has a network connection and a HDMI connection. So I bought these on Amazon. They're pretty cheapo ones, nothing special at all. You just get the one power supply in the box, obviously, for the transmitter. And what we're going to test as well is the secondary output of my receiver, something I've never tested. So we're actually just going to leave the TV on, hook it all up today, and just see if we get a signal over to the projector through this network cable and how it all works out. So for those of you who don't know, my projector, I've had it for absolutely years and years. I want to say close to probably 8 or 9 years at this point. It's an oldie, but it's a goodie. The Optoma HD70 720p DLP projector. Nice and bright, nice and quiet, and a lovely picture. Lovely vivid colours. Obviously, it won't really live up to the projectors that you can buy these days, but for one that I bought off eBay, cheap as chips, like I say, 8 or 9 years ago, it's absolutely fantastic. So let's give this a whirl. Obviously the chair is temporary. I have indeed purchased a mount for this guy, and it's going to go up on the ceiling. But this is all just kind of like testing purposes today, because it would be pretty disappointing to get all this set up on the day and then it doesn't work. So if I get these tested and I know they work, we are on to a winner, and all we've got to do is mount it and plug it in. So far, all of the signs are really good. So I've got it connected, the power supply is plugged in there. This HDMI cable is connected to the secondary output of the receiver, and this network cable is connected directly to the second port on my little faceplate down there, next to the actual home network connection, the LAN connection. So we've got a red light on the unit itself, and over here we've got the other unit with a red and a faint green light as well that you can just about see there. So I think we should power up the projector and see what we get. And then, oh, that's not the power button, is it? Yes. And then what we'll do is read the instructions when we can't get it to work. Okay, so we have a picture up on the projector. I've connected directly with one single cable, just because I couldn't get it to work for the longest time and I wanted to eliminate any points of failure. So we'll reconnect it to the longer cable and see if that works now. Now that I know how to do it, I think I'll be able to get it up and running via that cable. Now you may notice there's no picture on the TV, and that's because there's some strange goings on, and for some reason my receiver is not outputting via the main HDMI output. Since I started fiddling with this, it's not giving any picture through that port. If I plug the TV into the secondary port, it outputs. So that's really weird. I hope that port is okay, but we'll worry about that in a second. I'm just gonna patch this into the other cabling and see if it works around the room. Would you look at that, guys? Complete success. Blue cable connected to that faceplate. And there is the receiver. So that line is working. I'll actually put a bit of a film or something on. Obviously it looks really horrible and weird because it's projected onto a blue wall. But we'll just try a little bit of something. So this is exceptionally successful. So what we'll do is, I've already held the projector up to the ceiling and my plan is definitely gonna work with just putting it up there, about 10 inches under the ceiling. Gonna have to raise the light fitting ever so slightly, which may look a bit odd when you see it in comparison to the standard height one there, but it should be okay. It just clips it. It will indeed clip the light fitting. But yeah, I'm gonna hold it up on the ceiling again in a minute and Jess is gonna measure the screen, but I'll pop the camera on a tripod so you guys can see. I'm getting pretty much from this speaker to this speaker and full height from the top of the TV to the ceiling. So it's a huge image and really nice. And obviously it's on a blue wall, like I say at the moment, but this projector, for its age, always surprises me. Let me just put it up on the white ceiling. It's so nice. So nice. I remember how gobsmacked I was when I initially bought it. Anyway, so that's that working.
Oh, I just got blinded.
Sorry, yeah, don't look at it.
Oh, God's sake.
This has only got to be a guesstimate anyway.
Oh, she looks terrified. Why is the TV on the scene? A guesstimate. How the heck do I measure a wobbly...
Oh, I'm going to hold it still, aren't I?
Okay,
Right, roughly what that is.
roughly what that is. Roughly. I can't even tell. I have to measure something in the dark. Okay. Oh, shit.
Corner to corner.
Hang on. Yes, corner to the... Oh, what? Up there?
Yeah.
Oh, bloody hell. Right. Dude,
Sorry.
have you got more of a less floppy measuring tape? Someone need to stand up, but it was really floppy. Oh, I can't do it. I have to sellotape it to the wall. Hang on. Let me get my tape.
No, Jess, don't sellotape to the wall. I'll just lower the machine.
No, because... Just watch now. Watch.
Hang on. Why don't you go from...
Why don't I hold the projector and you measure?
You sure?
Yes, that's a bit easier job.
Okay, just don't burn yourself. Don't burn yourself.
Stop blinding me everywhere now, for God's sake. Right, there's loads of wires here. Oh, that's hot. Hot face. Hot eyes, hot eyes. Right, where do I hold that? You say me now.
Hold it upwards.
Oh,
there.
Ooh.
This isn't a great thing,
No,
is it?
I'm confused. So hurry up.
You press the button now.
It doesn't matter, just go measure. Go
Okay.
measure quick before I drop your projector. Quick! I'm gonna drop it.
Christ, it's floppy as hell.
I can't.
Hold it still. Hold it still.
Right, you do this again.
I've got it rigid.
I'm gonna take it to the wall.
I've got it rigid, Jess.
Is that the right place?
I can't tell, I'm so close. Don't whip it too much, it might break.
Why should I have you hold this?
Right, does that look about right?
Yeah.
I only need a bit rough anyway. Right, okay, you can bring it down. 80 inches that was. I think if I go for something like a 76 inch, that'll be okay. So we did a rough measurement of 80 inches, roughly. I mean, doing it that way is much more fun than looking at the little table they give you in the instruction manual, I guess. So I think if I go for like whatever the screens come in, 76, 78 inches, something like that, I think we'll be golden and it's going to look gorgeous. Really chuffed with it. I know I keep saying it, but because I've had this thing in storage for so long now and not set up, every time I just sort of whip it out once in a blue moon and fire it at the wall, I get really amazed by it every single time. Anyway, what I'm going to do now is pack all this stuff up. We haven't actually done any kind of progress tonight, pointing at the clock, because a couple of hours have passed since I originally decided to give this a whirl tonight. So we haven't actually achieved anything. But I did change this socket a couple of days ago. I don't know if I mentioned this earlier. I don't think I did. I changed this gold for a white. I've put one of these blocks here. It is a fused one, so it's not the mega dangerous ones. I was just feeling really dodgy about how compressed that wire was. And also, it was even worse with this socket because the socket holes themselves are physically lower in the faceplate than they were on the gold version. So I'm going to pack it all up, and like I say, we're not going to actually do anything tonight, but that was a big step. We now know that HDMI works over this line absolutely perfectly, so I'm thrilled with that, because that was the biggest kind of question mark, the huge area of uncertainty for me. So brilliant stuff, guys. We are winning. Okay, time to do some more painting, and then, I've got to wait for the bracket to arrive as well. I don't currently have the bracket for the projector. I've had to order that from a random site that I've never ordered from before, because I needed a specific one for this projector. Well, little man, I know exactly why it didn't work and what I did wrong, and I'm very happy now. Are you happy? Are you happy, sausage? Are you happy? Okay, guys, so I was fiddling around in the monitor out section of the settings to try and figure out why I wasn't getting a picture from the projector. And it turns out that monitor out, you can set to both, or you can set to, let's see if I can alter this. Oh, God, he's squeezing my nipple. My leg hair. God's sake. Basically what I'm trying to say, I'm going to have to work my editing magic on this. Basically what I'm trying to say is you can disable the main HDMI output, and I've done that accidentally, so I've now got both enabled, which is awesome. I thought I'd killed the port somehow while I was plugging and unplugging stuff. But no, I haven't, so that's good. And just while we're here, actually, Odie, are you okay with a little bit of a loud noise? You gonna be okay with a little loud noise? You know that noise that I do sometimes? Okay, loud noise come in, okay? We're gonna check that I've got the speakers, the rear left and right speakers wired in the correct orientation. So, speaker setup. Are you ready, dude? Are you ready? Loud noise. Hey, things are... Hey, it's okay. It's okay. Things are working out. Okay, onwards and upwards. Right, we're going to chill and watch some TV now because... Wait, hang on a minute. Where's my picture? Where's my... Oh, I thought it wasn't going to work then. Okay, there's my picture. Sweet. I got nervous. Things are starting to get pretty exciting. I'm finally seeing some progress with this plan. I've been talking about mounting the projector for so long, it's started to feel like something that's not really real, something that's not really happening. But now that I've received the mount, got this in yesterday, attached it to the projector, as you can see, it looks really nice, working well. I am feeling that much better about this whole thing. So this particular mount is specifically made for the Optoma HD70 and a small selection of Optoma projectors from around the mid to late noughties that have this particular mounting layout and the requirement for the M3 bolts as well. Normally you find on projectors that they require an M4 bolt, but this one slightly smaller bolts and quite an interesting layout. So it can be a little on the trickier side to get universal projector mount to fit nicely, and you need these spacers and things. So I decided to go for this mount. It was a little pricier than choosing a universal mount, but I really like it. It's a nice design. It's all 100% aluminium, and it's just very basic, as you guys can see. No bells, no whistles. It's a 10-inch drop from the ceiling plate to where the projector sits. So even though this projector has a fixed lens shift, and it's quite severe as well, it throws the picture right down. If your projector is flat like this, it's just literally like really throwing it down. So you can have it hugging the ceiling and you can get a nice level to the screen. But I decided to get a mount with a pole just because it will help me try and clear the pendant, the light fitting, without hopefully raising it too much. If I can get away with not raising it at all, that would be awesome. But it all depends on how low I can get a projector screen in front of the TV, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to have to decide all of that. But the plan is get the projector up on the ceiling as central as I can to the setup, and then in terms of height, just work my way along that based on whatever image throws out of the projector and whatever screen I can get, because I'm still pretty undecided about what screen I want at this moment in time. So we may as well take a closer look at the mount up here before I put it on the ceiling, and then that way you guys can sort of see what it's all about before you see me fitting it. It's made by a company called Projector Ceiling Mount Direct. Yeah, I guess that's the company that make it. It's made in the US. I could only find it in the UK from one website. I'll link it down below. And it's very simple. You don't get any over-the-top instructions or anything, just this single sheet of installation instructions. Tells you first how to put the bracket together, which is really obvious. It's a nice, simple, compared to some of these universal brackets that are fairly complex, it's very simple. And then it talks about various fixings and whatnot. And speaking of fixings, they were quite generous. I mean, I'm glad that they did include them because the price is hefty, but they were generous enough to include both wood screws and some nice substantial spring toggles if you're mounting directly on the plasterboard ceiling. You also get some additional spacers there as well, which is nice. So in terms of the mount itself, if we take a look at it, adjustments are fairly minimal, which is nice. You get everything that you need, nothing that you don't need. Left to right is an adjustment that you can't tighten and loosen freely when the projector is mounted. So you can see we've got a bolt through the mount here. It twists here, so you can turn the projector at the bottom end of the pole, and you've also got a bolt through here, and you can twist it left and right at the top. Now you can swivel the ceiling plate like I mentioned for mounting, and then you can just swivel the bottom left and right to line up with your screen, or however you want to do it. For the up and down, it's kind of an interesting one. You can't adjust the height of the projector from this portion of the stand. You have to adjust the height here. So that's one thing with this. When you fix it to the ceiling, if you want to move your projector up and down, you're physically moving the entire pole, which is quite interesting. Often with universal mounts, you can let the pole be completely straight and then you can pivot the projector at the bottom. With this one, you can't. So if you've got quite a big rake, if I didn't have a lens shift, for instance, on this projector and I wanted to point it down, you'd obviously need to compensate for that when mounting. Mount it further away from the wall because the entire projector is now further back. But that's just a little something there. And then you've got your level, your horizontal level, which you can adjust here. So that moves the entire projector left and right based on the leveling of the screen. So it's nice you get that adjustment. And in terms of taking the projector off, again, because this is a very basic mount, what you see is what you get. There's no kind of hook system. So you can put this plate on the ceiling as is, but in order to then hang the projector, you bring the pole up and you've got to hold the weight of it while putting this bolt through and tightening the wing nut. You have to do that because there is no hook functionality here. So it could be a little trickier to put it up when you're on a ladder, but this is not a heavy projector at all, so that's not a problem. And it's nice that they're wing nuts. You don't need a spanner to adjust any of this stuff when the projector is up, so that's really cool. Because the pan of the projector left and right isn't adjustable, what I've done on this bottom one is tightened it to a point where I can move it left and right, but it's tight enough so that if I let go of the projector, it'll stay exactly where I put it. It's still very tight, so I won't need to remove the projector from the mount in order to change the left-right position, which would really suck. What's awesome about this as well is I can access the lamp door. I've actually tried to pull the lamp out with this attached and you can get it. It looks like you can't because the lamp door is underneath, but the lamp is kind of triangular. It's sort of like that inside the machine, so you can just pull it out so you can do a lamp change with this mount in place. So yeah, I am over the moon with it. As I say, it was a little more expensive than going the universal mount route, but I'm glad I did this, and it's very smart looking as well. So let's have a quick look at cables that I've got ready for the projector, because we're all nerds and we all love cables. So pretty basic, just 3 cables to get this up and running. I've gone for white just because it's going to be a white projector, going to be white sockets, so I think white will look quite smart. We have got, first and foremost, a very short white IEC cable to power the projector, standard. We've got an Ethernet cable, Cat6, white, that is the same length as the power cable, and we've got this tiny, really short HDMI cable, because my plan is to put the HDMI over Cat6 adapter on top of the projector here, patch in the HDMI, and then just have power and Ethernet running out the side. So this evening we are mounting the projector. So this is the plate that we're mounting on the ceiling, and I've just measured the center of the screen to the wall, and I've measured the same distance back here. And what I did was drew a single mark, and then I brought the projector itself up, turned on, held it up against that mark, and finalized the position that I wanted it to be, and marked the rest of the holes for that mounting bracket. Now that's the easy part done. We know where the projector is meant to be going. This is the ideal location. The only struggle I'm having at the moment is my, granted, relatively cheap stud finder is not telling me where the joists are in the ceiling, and it isn't very obvious by knocking on the ceiling either. So all the little tricks I know, I just can't really find them. So something's going on with this ceiling. It's like it's got 2 layers of plasterboard on it or something. Potentially it was boarded over again somewhere along the lines, because when you knock on it, nowhere feels particularly hollow, but there are areas that are feeling more hollow than others. So it is kind of strange. So what I'm going to do a tiny pilot hole and see what we've got happening up here. I've done the lookout for electrical cables. There's no cables here. The cables are in that corner there to feed that socket, and there shouldn't be any pipes because there are no radiators or anything of that nature this side of the house. So I'm just going to drill a tiny hole, take it nice and steady, and see what we hit. What did you think, Eddie? Did I make less noise than you thought I was going to? Because I did. Sausage. I'm just going to update the guys, okay? Okay, so we're at a good stage. It turns out that my kind of hunch was correct, and that really is saying something because this is not my area of expertise whatsoever. But my hunch about the 2 layers of plasterboard was indeed correct. So I got the smallest bit going, small, really blunt bit on my drill, just that size, and went up into the plasterboard. Went through the first layer, went through a second layer, which you could feel that you were going through the second layer, and it was sort of 2 layers deep. And then above, miraculously, we've got something really flipping solid. So I couldn't drill any further with that blunt bit. It felt sort of as if I really pushed the drill I could. It was sort of softish, it wasn't hard. So I very gradually hand drove these 3 wood screws in, and I could feel that it was biting wood, biting really strongly on all 3. And yeah, I've hung off this and it is not going anywhere. So I'm chuffed to pieces about that. I'm really glad I didn't have to faff about with any spring toggles or any of that nonsense. So even though that you can't hear there's a joist there, I presume there is a joist there, or at least some chunk of wood that's now holding up my projector. Unfortunately, I was praising the projector mount earlier for coming with all the necessary screws. It came with 4 spring toggles, 4 bolts for the toggles, and it also came with loads of spacers and spare spacers, but they only gave me 3 wood screws, and I don't have any this big, so I'm really annoyed about that. Obviously, 3 is not the end of the world. You could hold it up with 2 quite adequately. It's a very lightweight projector, but it would be nice just to finish it off with the 4th. So I will keep my eyes peeled for a screw that is similar to this, and then just hand drive it in at some point. But yeah, I'm chuffed to pieces with that, and what I'm going to do now is hang the projector on it and see how well we can get it lined up to where we think the screen is going to be, and see how much of an issue this pendant is. Sorry about the wibbly image on the camera, but just with a temporary power cable connected, you guys can see that the image without any adjustment is a little on the wonky side, but other than that, quite glorious in the sense that it's huge. So what I'm going to do now is roughly straighten this, point it so that we miss the light fitting for now, and then we'll see if we can compensate for that with screen mounting and type of screen that we choose, because ideally I wouldn't like it too high anyway, because the further up the image, obviously the further away we're getting from the primary sound source, and then the center channel in particular very low there for a screen that's going to be way up the wall. So it may be a case of wall mounting a screen that drops down in front of the TV, but I was thinking of ceiling mounting the screen, but unless there's a really big border at the top, it's not going to do it. So we'll have a little fiddle around with this now, and see if we can straighten out this image, and then we'll know exactly what we're looking for in terms of a screen. Obviously, it's going to be kind of tricky to get a sense of what's going on without any kind of reference point for the camera. The camera's not even centered to the screen, but I can't get it centered because the ladder's in the way, so you guys are just going to have to bear with me for a second while we roughly line up this projector.
I think I've got this house is straight.
Does that look straight to you in relation to the ceiling?
I'm sitting on the log. Maybe you could go a little less on the right, more so.
More up on the right?
More down on the right, I think. Yeah, it looks pretty straight.
Oh, it's really straight to me.
Aye.
This one, we get it not clipping the light fitting. It's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. Oh my word.
What?
How is that?
Nice.
Let's just get it as sharp as possible so it's easy to measure. So we are looking at 21.5. Oh, dead on. That is actually straight relating to the ceiling.
Unless the ceiling's up wrong.
Which I think it is. But it's always going to be best case scenario. This isn't a finalised measurement anyway. This is rough, so that you know what the screen is going to be. But look at that, no adjustment to the light.
Yeah, that's great.
So that is pretty straight. Let's see if I can go around here and get a good shot for you guys. That is as good as we need for now, obviously. Once the screen is on, it'll need further adjustment, but that is our image in relation to the setup, and boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. That is going to be tasty. Tasty, tasty. Missing the light shade really nicely, and that is what the projector looks like. Hang on a sec, let's look at it from the front. You are loving my tools, aren't you, buddy? That's what we're looking like. I know you blinking echo, D. This is so loud, dude. You're the smallest human in this house, but the loudest. Let's get a bright light setting. You guys can see. That looks smart as hell. Smart, smart, smart. Okay, I'm going to try and measure this screen. So our rough measurement the other day was 80 inches. Let's get 80 inches up. Now, of course, we've got to compensate for the fact that the screen is going to be more in front of this image. Ooh. Sweet, we're bigger than 80. We're bigger than 80 on the wall, so coming out this way, I think, see, I was looking at screens, I think it might have to be a 72 so that I'm really comfortable. Depends how far it comes out this way. Okay, great. Okay, it's a few weeks later. It's been about 2 or 3 weeks since the last clip. And since then, December has hit and we've got the decorations out, Christmas tree. And you guys will notice a screen here. My projector, of course, is mounted, as you guys saw. Apologies if I repeat anything, it's been a little while for me since I recorded the last portion. So cabling wise, I've currently got a temporary power cable running up to the projector. What I'm going to do is the end of the mains cable that I've run through the trunking and behind the DVDs here. By the way, the DVDs are back up, wall is painted. Don't think that was in the last clip. So you guys can see how well the cabling works now. So cabling runs up there, behind the DVDs and back out through some trunking there. Haven't finished off the trunking run across because I don't have a length big enough. I've got loads of offcuts, so I don't want to keep joining them across. I just want to get one nice length, make it as clean as possible. You know, if you're going to surface mount, try and make it as clean as possible, I guess. So yes, I've got to wait for that'll probably come after Christmas now. But what I'm trying to say is I'm going to pop an IEC connector on the end of that mains cable, plug it into the projector. I've got the Ethernet wired up, the signal is running through the Ethernet to HDMI. That box is just sitting on top of the projector at the moment. Obviously I'll tidy it all up in the future. But what I'm getting at is we have a temporary projector setup, including a temporary screen, which is totally viable. I've just put the kids to bed now. We've had a lovely evening film. We had an early dinner and we watched Santa Claus on the film, on the screen, and it was awesome. We watched The Grinch last week, the new one, the animated one. So we've had 2 films with the kids. I think Jess and I have had 2 films as well. So we've had 4 films on this guy. The screen, let me see if I can get a bit of a brighter image on here for you guys. Need the remote. Here we go. So the screen, what have we got going here? This is an 80-inch. Obviously, it's not completely straight or anything like that. This is all really temporary. But you guys can see in front of the TV stand, we're nearly getting a full 80-inch picture. So we're going to be at least 80 inches when the screen is in its proper position, because we've got quite a gap here between this portable screen and where the screen is actually going to go. So I'm not mounting a screen this side of Christmas. I'm not doing any more painting, not doing any more decorating. We're just going to chill out now for December. I'm going to focus on other things, and then come the new year, we'll get started on finalising all this stuff, finishing it all up. But this little screen came in a bag. Here it is. It's not actually mine, technically. I've sort of borrowed it from work. So very handy. We bought it for a couple of different things in work, and those things never happened and the screen was never used. So here it is, and it is surprisingly good quality. I'll leave a link to this exact screen down in the video description. If you guys have a projector but you don't have a permanent screen setup, I wish I would have tried something like this sooner, because I could have been using this guy for the last 4 years instead of having it up the attic just sitting around going to waste. Because this screen is under 100 quid, I believe, or just over 100 quid, somewhere around 100 quid from Amazon. You can get them in a couple of different sizes. It's 16 by 9 and it's glorious. Really lightweight tripod stand, but decent enough quality to hold up the screen. You just click these arms into the back and then you just slot the screen on all 4 corners, and the tension is really good. For this kind of budget screen, it's a very flat image. It's got nice straight masking around the edges, so you can get a glorious clean-cut picture. It really is a nice bit of kit. If it was more suitable, I would definitely have something of this quality hung on the wall, most definitely, because you can wall mount this guy as well. You don't have to use the stand. It comes with all the appropriate bits and pieces to do that. But if I put this flat on our wall here, A, I'd have to put it really high above the TV, so the light fitting would interfere. And B, when I put this to the wall, the image is overlapping it like crazy. Just want to first of all play you guys a little something here. So there we go, there's me. I was trying to look for something that wasn't sort of gonna get me a copyright strike or anything. And yeah, this is just little vlog footage from 3 or 4 years ago, recorded with my Canon S120, uploaded to YouTube. We've got some lights on in the room, and as you guys can see, it looks wonderful. Let me kill the lights completely, other than the Christmas lights, and see if you guys can get an idea. Super bright image. You're not going to be able to tell on the camera really, but again, you know, I know I've said it a million times, this projector, it's a bit weird just looking at my face, isn't it? This projector, the HD70, beast, absolute beast. So I've just wrapped up the edit on the video that you guys have just seen, and I need to clarify a couple of points. Really sorry to just sort of bolt this clip on the end. It's not that great of a way to sign off, but I'm kind of cutting this project short. So initially I thought, when I begun this video about 4, 5, 6 weeks ago, I thought I'd probably get all this done by Christmas and it would all go in this really one big video part. As you guys can see, that hasn't happened, but because we were simultaneously decorating and making this video, I'm still really quite pleased with the progress. We've done a lot since November, so I'm really happy about that. So I've decided to cut this short, put this video out for you guys to enjoy right now, and then we'll have another part, the next part, in the new year, which will probably, eventually, by the time I do everything, come around February, March time probably. But to close this one off, let's just talk about a couple of things that I neglected to speak about in the video and questions that you may have because I wasn't that clear about it. You got to remember that when I'm making these videos, especially with this one, whereas I'm kind of trial and error with the projector and whatnot. It's very much thinking as I go, but I've now got a solid plan and I'm going to explain it to you guys really quickly. So here's a shot from the video of the TV, and we're just going to use this to illustrate what I'm speaking about. So whether I get a new TV or not, that makes no difference at this point. What I'm going to do is wall mount the TV. So we'll take the stand off, obviously, put a bracket on the wall, pop the TV on the wall, put it a little bit higher than where it is now, simply because the new TV that I do eventually get may be bigger, hopefully will be bigger, just to give it that bit of extra space, make sure it's not too low. But I'm not going to mount a TV all the way up on the wall, just a nice TV pretty much where it is now, but on the wall. Primary reason I want to do that is so that there's space for a projector screen to drop down in front of it, but also another good reason is it's kind of like that next barrier away from the TV. So with the kids and touching the screen constantly, possibly hitting the screen with toys every now and again, sometimes accidental, sometimes not accidental, it'll be that extra kind of layer of protection there, because even if I get a used TV again, which I'm probably going to do, I'll still be spending, you know, 100 quid, 120 quid if I want a nice relatively new LED TV of 42 inches or whatever. You know, could be anything like 140, 150 quid. So it's still a chunk of change going out of the door. You don't want it to get bashed around straight away. So the TV is going to go on the wall, and then that'll give me a lot more flexibility to drop a projector screen in front of it. With this TV now, if I want to drop a projector screen in front of it, it all gets a little complicated. You've either got to get the projector screen way out on the ceiling, sort of in the middle of the ceiling, a couple of feet away from the wall, and drop it so that it drops down in front of the TV, or you try and build it out from the wall somehow to drop down in front of the TV. It's just not very convenient. Whereas if I wall mount the TV, I can get it dropping in front of it nicely from a more sensible position on the ceiling, and it'll all just be a cleaner setup. Now you guys are probably thinking, why don't I just have leave the TV where it is and have the screen starting here? Well, this shot will help illustrate why that is. Here we go, this shot right here. This is a great example of why I'm not going to do that. As you guys can see, the light fitting is interfering with the screen there. But if I just move a couple of frames, move a couple of frames to here, where I drop it down so that it's 21 inches from the ceiling, that is the perfect level. It doesn't interfere with the light fitting at all, so I don't have to move that, and it's a really nice position in the room. It's just above the speakers. As you can see, it's overlapping the TV, so the screen does need to come in front of the TV, but that is a lovely angle. We've been using this height, even though we've been using the portable screen, we've been using this height, and it's been a wonderful view. You just sort of look straight at it from the settee. You're not looking upwards. You're just looking nice and straight. You know, it's really nice. It's comfortable. That's where we want the screen. So TV on the wall, screen is going to drop down in front of the TV. And by my measurements, you know, give or take, we'll end up being somewhere around the 80-inch mark. I think it'll be a bit of a stretch to go to something like 84, but I think a good 80, if we can find an 80-inch drop down, that would be ideal. So that's it. I'm in no particular rush to buy a screen, but we will do it in the new year. I'm happy as we are for Christmas. There's just a couple of weeks until Christmas Day now, so there's no point going all crazy and trying to rush this, get it done. It's just not worth it. We can already enjoy films on the big screen. So I'm going to close this particular little chapter for now and bring this video out to you guys. In the next part, we're going to be finishing off that wiring to the projector. We'll be putting up the screen. We'll be fiddling with one of my speakers that needs a little bit more TLC, and we'll talk a little bit more about driver replacement and some other things that will add on to what I was saying in the previous part when we swapped out that tweeter, because I've had a lot of good comments about that section. I'm really glad you guys enjoyed that, so we'll cover a lot more of that sort of thing. And we're going to pull out all the equipment, clean it, dust the cabinet, rewire it, because there are a couple of things I want to change, a couple of cable choices I want to alter, and I want to move the position of a few of the pieces of equipment, so that's the perfect excuse to pull everything out. So we're in for a treat next time. It's going to be awesome. I hope you've enjoyed this point up until this little bit we've got here. We're nearly there, but not quite there yet, so more home entertainment setup to come. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Oh, and by the way, really quick, I want to mention this. If anyone is interested in that HDMI over Cat6 adapter I've been using, it's a really nice one. I've had no problems with it at all. And it's really cool that you only need a power supply on one end versus the other ones that I've used in the past, like I said, that needed a transformer on both ends. It's a nice bit of kit. I'll link it down below. I'll put my Amazon links down there because I'm now an Amazon affiliate. I've signed up because I think it'll be a really handy extra little revenue stream for some of the more intricate projects that we want to do on the channel. So you can use my Amazon links if you want to support me. Obviously, you don't have to. It's completely your choice, but the option is there, and they are affiliate links just so you guys are aware of that. So anything I use in videos going forward that I order from Amazon, I'll be popping them down there, and they'll be my affiliate links, and you can check out those products for yourselves. So that's it. That's all I want to say. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.